You are falling, not through air, through water, cold, dark, salt water. And there is no bottom in sight. You are not a diver. You have no tank, no suit, no rope connecting you to the surface. There is just you and the ocean and the simple, brutal fact that you are going down. Right now, in this moment, before you have time to think about what is happening, your body has already begun to change. Without your permission, without your instruction, something ancient inside you has switched on, and it is doing everything it can to keep you alive in a place you were never designed to be. This is the story of what happens to your body in the deep ocean, not in theory, not in a classroom, in your actual body, in the actual water, at actual depth, layer by layer, meter by meter, from the surface all the way down to a place so deep that the pressure would kill you before you had time to register the pain. Some of what happens will surprise you, some of it will disturb you, and some of it will make you understand something about yourself that you never knew before. Because the ocean does not just do things to your body, it reveals things about your body, things that have been there all along, waiting in the dark for the moment you went deep enough to find them. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. This channel exists because people like you are curious enough to go deeper than the surface. If you have not yet subscribed, a single tap on that button keeps this work alive. It costs you nothing. It means more than I can easily say. Now, let us go down, the surface first. Stand at the edge of the ocean before you enter, before anything happens. You need to understand what you are leaving behind because you will never fully appreciate what the deep does to you until you understand what normal feels like. Right now, the air around you is pressing down on your body at 14.7 pounds per square inch. That is 1 atmosphere of pressure. You have felt it your entire life. You were born into it. You cannot feel it anymore because your body has been in perfect equilibrium with it since the moment you drew your first breath. The fluids inside you push outward with exactly the same force that the air pushes inward. You are, in this moment, a perfectly balanced system. Pressure in equals pressure out. Everything is in its right place. The moment you enter the water, that balance begins to shift, and it will keep shifting in ways that become more and more extreme for every meter you descend. 0 to 10 meters. You're still fine. This is the part of the ocean that you know, the part where the light still reaches, where you can still see the surface above you, where the world is blue and bright and comprehensible. Children play at this depth, swimmers pass through it. It feels safe because it mostly is. But your body has already noticed the change. At 10 meters below the surface, the pressure on your body has doubled, 2 atmospheres now instead of 1. You almost certainly do not feel this in your muscles or your skin because soft tissue and fluid handle pressure remarkably well. What you do feel is in your ears, a discomfort, a soreness, maybe a sharp ache if you go too fast without equalizing. This is because your body contains air pockets, your ears, your sinuses, the space behind your eardrum. These air spaces are compressible. As the pressure around you increases, the air inside these pockets wants to shrink, and the surrounding tissue is being pressed inward. Every diver knows this feeling. It is the first signal your body sends you. It is the ocean saying you are not in your world anymore, but something else is happening at this depth that you cannot feel at all, because it is happening at the level of your nervous system. Your body has activated something called the mammalian diving reflex. The moment your face touched the water, sensors in your skin and airways sent a signal. Your heart rate began to slow, blood vessels in your arms and legs constricted, reducing flow to your extremities. Your body has begun diverting blood away from your limbs and toward your vital organs, your heart, your brain, your core. It is protecting the things that matter most. You did not do this. You did not decide it. Your body did it automatically, the same way it does when you blink. And the remarkable thing is that this reflex is not unique to trained divers or elite athletes. It is in you right now. It is in every human being on the planet. It is ancient, far older than our species, a mechanism we share with every mammal that has ever entered the water, from otters to seals to whales. Something in us has always known how to dive. We simply forgot we had it. There is one more thing happening at this depth that you need to know. Your spleen, a fist-sized organ tucked beneath your left ribs that most people forget they have, is contracting. It is squeezing itself, forcing a reserve of oxygen-rich red blood cells into your bloodstream. Your spleen is a storage unit for emergency oxygen, and it has just opened its doors. Divers who train regularly develop spleens that can contract more forcefully and release larger reserves. The Bahau people of Southeast Asia, a sea nomadic community who have spent generations freediving for food, have spleens on average 50% larger than their land-living neighbors. The ocean has literally reshaped their organs across generations, evolution happening in real time, driven by the depth. 10 to 30 meters. Now things become more interesting. The pressure is 3, then 4 times what it was at the surface. Your ears are aching in earnest now, and you are equalizing constantly, pinching your nose and blowing gently to push air through the eustachian tubes, balancing the pressure on either side of your eardrum. If you do not do this, the eardrum can rupture, not metaphorically, literally tear open. The ocean does not negotiate. Your lungs are compressing. This is the part that frightens people when they first experience it, because lungs are not supposed to compress. They are not supposed to shrink, but they do. At 30 meters, the pressure is 4 atmospheres, and the air in your lungs has been compressed to 1/4 of its original volume. Your chest feels different, smaller, tighter. If you put your hand on your sternum, you would feel it sitting differently than it does at the surface. Somewhere between 30 and 40 meters, depending on your lung capacity, you will reach something called residual volume. This is the point at which your lungs have compressed as far as they physically can, the point where they cannot shrink any further without collapsing. And this is where your body does something that should not be possible. Something that, when scientists first observed it, they could barely believe. Instead of collapsing, your lungs trigger a response called blood shift. The capillaries surrounding your lung tissue, tiny blood vessels thinner than a human hair, suddenly flood with blood plasma. The fluid fills the space inside your chest, reinforcing the lung walls from within, preventing them from tearing or folding under the pressure. Your body has invented its own hydraulic support system, on the fly, at 30 meters underwater, without you doing anything at all. This is not something you learned. This is not something you trained for. This is simply what your body does when it needs to survive. And the fact that it can do this at all is one of the most extraordinary things about being human. 30 to 100 meters. This is where the ocean begins to feel genuinely alien. The light at 40 meters is a deep, cold blue and fading. By 60 meters, it is dim enough that colors have disappeared. Red is gone first, then orange, then yellow. What remains is blue and shadow. By 100 meters, you're in a world of near darkness, and the surface above you is a pale ghost, something you remember rather than see. At 40 meters, the nitrogen in your blood becomes a problem. The air you breathe is approximately 78% nitrogen. At the surface, your body absorbs some of this nitrogen, but it causes no issues. At depth, as the pressure increases, more nitrogen dissolves into your blood and tissues. And at around 40 meters, for most divers, this dissolved nitrogen begins to affect the brain. Nitrogen narcosis. Divers call it the rapture of the deep. It does not hurt. That is what makes it dangerous. It feels, to many people, like a gentle euphoria, a loosening of thought, a pleasurable fuzziness around the edges of the mind. Some divers describe it as similar to having a glass of wine. Others describe confusion, a sense that the situation is fine when it is not. An inability to follow simple logic, a forgetting of where they are and what they are doing. At 40 meters, a diver pulled off their oxygen mask because they decided to offer it to a passing fish. They survived, not because they were logical, because their dive partner grabbed them. This is what nitrogen does to the brain under pressure. It does not feel like impairment, it feels like clarity, and that is the most dangerous thing about it. Professional divers who go deeper than 40 meters breathe special gas mixtures that replace some or all of the nitrogen with helium. Helium does not narcotize the brain the same way, but it introduces its own complications, including a strange effect called the helium voice. And at extreme depths, high-pressure nervous syndrome, a whole-body trembling caused by the pressure itself acting on the nervous system directly. Somewhere around 65 meters, breathing pure oxygen would kill you. At that depth, the partial pressure of oxygen is high enough to cause oxygen toxicity, which can trigger seizures with no warning. A diver who has a seizure at 65 meters underwater does not survive. There is no recovering from a seizure at that depth without equipment. This is why every gas mixture at depth is calculated with extraordinary precision. A small error in the formula is not an inconvenience. It is the end. At 100 meters, you have reached a place that only a few hundred people in the world have reached without a submarine. The pressure is 11 atmospheres. For every square inch of your body surface, 11 times the pressure you feel right now is pressing in. Your lungs are a fraction of their normal size. Your heart, now beating somewhere around 30 beats per minute in a trained diver, is small and slow and working with mechanical efficiency, doing exactly what it needs to do and nothing more. Your diaphragm has been pushed upward into your chest cavity, crowding your heart. The whole architecture of your thorax has been rearranged by the weight of water above you. And if you are a free diver at this depth, you are doing something that your entire nervous system is screaming at you not to do. You are not breathing. You have not breathed for over 3 minutes. Your blood oxygen level is falling with every second. Your carbon dioxide is rising. The urge to inhale is not a preference at this point. It is a physical compulsion, a signal from your brainstem that is as powerful as any sensation your body can produce. And you are overriding it with nothing but your mind. This is the depth that a man named Herbert Nitsch reached in 2012. Not in a submarine, not in a pressurized suit, alone on a single breath. He reached 253 meters, nearly 830 feet, on one breath of air. On his way back to the surface, something went wrong with his decompression. He lost consciousness. When he was brought to the surface, he had suffered multiple strokes. His recovery took years. He is still alive. He did not attempt to break the record again. Herbert Nitsch descended to a depth that would kill an untrained person instantly and return from it alive, at a cost that most people would consider unacceptable. And in doing so, he showed us the absolute outer edge of what the human body can survive unassisted in the water. 100 to 700 meters. Below 100 meters, the ocean stops being somewhere a human body can exist without technology. This is not a gradual transition. It is a hard line. Below 100 meters, the physiology of an unprotected human body begins to fail in ways that cannot be compensated for by training, by reflex, or by willpower. At 200 meters, pure oxygen is no longer just dangerous. It is immediately lethal. Even the specially formulated gas mixtures that allow divers to go this deep must be calculated to within fractions of a percent. The margin for error is essentially zero. At this depth, another danger emerges that is less dramatic but equally lethal. Decompression sickness, the bends. As you descend, nitrogen and other inert gases dissolve into your blood and tissues under pressure. This is unavoidable. It is simply the physics of gas in liquid under pressure. While you are at depth, these gases remain dissolved, but as you ascend and the pressure decreases, the gases want to return to their gaseous state. If you ascend too quickly, they do not have time to leave your body through your lungs in a controlled way. Instead, they form bubbles in your blood, in your joints, in your spinal cord, in your brain. The pain this causes is described by survivors as unlike anything they have ever experienced. It can cause paralysis, it can cause stroke, it can cause death, and it can happen hours after you have returned to the surface when you think you are safe. The only treatment is recompression. You are placed in a hyperbaric chamber and the pressure is increased again to force the bubbles back into solution, and then decreased slowly over hours or sometimes days to let the gases leave your body safely. Some dives require decompression stops at multiple depths on the way up, spending a specific number of minutes at each depth to allow controlled off-gassing. A dive that takes 30 minutes can require 3 hours of decompression before you can safely reach the surface. The ocean charges rent for every meter you take from it, and it collects on the way up, 700 meters. In 2012, a man named Herbert Nitsch reached 253 meters on a single breath. That is the deepest any human has gone without a pressurized vessel. Below 700 meters, the human body cannot survive in the open water even with the most advanced gas mixtures. The pressure at 700 meters is 70 atmospheres. The weight of water above you is crushing in a way that no amount of training or physiology can compensate for. You need a suit, a specialized atmospheric diving suit, a sealed, rigid structure that maintains the pressure inside at 1 atmosphere regardless of the depth outside. These suits allow divers to descend to around 600 meters while their bodies experience none of the pressure changes. They are, in effect, tiny submarines that happen to be shaped like a human being. But even these suits have limits. Below 2,300 meters, no suit provides adequate protection. The pressure is simply too great, 2,300 to 6,000 meters. Below 2,300 meters, you need a submarine, not a personal suit. A submarine with walls thick enough to resist pressures that would crush an unprotected human body in the same way you would crush an empty aluminum can. Most research submarines operate in this range using pressure hulls of titanium or high-strength steel, thick enough that the vehicle itself weighs tens of thousands of kilograms even before any equipment or crew. At 6,000 meters, the pressure is 600 atmospheres, 600 times the pressure you feel right now. The submarines that operate at this depth are extraordinary engineering achievements, designed and built to tolerances that leave almost no margin for error. If you were somehow teleported to 6,000 meters without a submarine, the event would not be dramatic. It would simply be over. The pressure at that depth would overcome every system in your body simultaneously before any of them had time to register what was happening. 6,000 to 11,000 meters. At the very bottom of the ocean, at the bottom of Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, the pressure is 1,099 times atmospheric pressure. 1,099 times what you feel right now. The only humans who have ever been here were inside incredibly engineered vessels. Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh in 1960 in a submersible called the Trieste with walls 5 inches thick. James Cameron in 2012, alone in a vessel he had spent years helping to design. Victor Vescovo in 2019, who descended multiple times and went deeper than anyone before him, reaching 10,927 meters, a depth that would not be believed if it were not documented. What Vescovo found at the bottom was not emptiness, it was life. Creatures perfectly adapted to 1,099 atmospheres of pressure. The Mariana snailfish, a pale, translucent animal that looks like it should break if you looked at it too hard, lives below 8,000 meters and was found at over 8,300 meters, the deepest fish ever recorded. Its bones are soft and flexible. Its body contains no swim bladder, which would be crushed instantly at that depth. Instead of fighting the pressure, it is built from the pressure up. It does not resist the ocean, it is made by it. Giant amphipods, crustaceans reaching 30 centimeters in length, scavenge the sediment at the bottom, their exoskeletons reinforced with aluminum extracted directly from the mineral-rich mud. Bacteria live in the sediment itself, metabolizing at temperatures just above freezing, under pressures that would compress a human body to a small fraction of its original volume in the time it takes to draw a breath. They have no idea that the surface exists. They have never needed to know. And here's the thing that I want you to think about as we come back up. As we return, slowly, carefully through the layers of the ocean that this documentary has taken you through. The Bahau people, with their enlarged spleens, the mammalian diving reflex that fires the moment your face touches water, the blood shift that reinforces your lung walls when you reach residual volume. None of these are things you learned. None of these are things you developed through modern technology. These are things that were already in you, placed there by millions of years of evolution in a species that has always had a relationship with the water. We did not come from the land, we came from the sea. Every living thing on this planet came from the sea. And while we have spent the last few 100 million years becoming land animals, building cities and roads and buildings and everything else that makes us who we are, something in us has never fully forgotten where we started. The mammalian diving reflex is not a quirk, it is a memory. Your body remembers the water in a way that your conscious mind never could. And every time you enter it, something ancient in you wakes up, something that knows without being told exactly what to do. You cannot live in the deep ocean. Your body is not built for it, not without extraordinary technological intervention. But your body is not entirely unfamiliar with it either. It knows the water. It has protocols for the water. It has reflexes and adaptations that fire automatically the moment you submerge. Ancient and reliable and surprisingly capable. The deep ocean is not your home, but it is not entirely alien either. It is, in some sense, the place you came from. And when you enter it, however briefly, however shallowly, something in you recognizes it. That is worth knowing. That is worth carrying back to the surface with you. The ocean let you visit. It always does, but it will keep its deepest secrets for the creatures built to hold them. In the cold and the dark and the impossible pressure, 11 kilometers below the place where you now stand. Thank you for watching. If this changed how you see yourself and the water, the kindest thing you can do is subscribe, so the next story finds you when it is ready. Until then, next time you are near the ocean, take a breath, hold it for just a moment, and remember that something inside you already knows what to do next.